Greetings. What's happening? When life be kicking your ass, listen, get you some watermelon. Nah, but all jokes aside, let me see. Um, let's give an honest source to the Creator for making this possible. I didn't know no better way but to come here at this moment. This is a big one because I used to have real issues with this topic. I'm trying to get this lighting right. I used to have a big issue with this topic. On retaliation, revenge, whatever you want to call it. And on many levels, you'll hear people growing up, depending on their religious belief, will talk about, you know, some may say retaliation is mine, say the Lord, depending on their beliefs. And then you have some people that say, don't vibe low or go low, like when people want to operate in a lower frequency. Don't stoop to their level. A lot of shit. Because let me tell you something. That's going to be one of the biggest and greatest things you're going to learn as you evolve. One thing I'm telling you, it's not even about being perfect. It's about learning yourself. I've had things happen before, and it's so interesting because you don't have guidance there. Some people don't have the guidance to realize like the consequences can be um, have a lasting effect on people. That's speaking from experience of childhood development and even the fact of how I was like, oh my gosh, what would it do to retaliate? And you see this a lot in certain demographics due to the lack of emotional intelligence. And again, I'm not perfect, but my message to a lot of you young youth that are growing up, please learn the importance of like emotional managing your emotions and regulating them because spiritual warfare is one thing where you have people who are operating low who are pretty much battling their own fucking vices that has nothing to do with you. But it takes a lot of self-discipline and knowing who you are not to respond, not to retaliate, or even not to react. And I'm telling you from years of being where I am now, like still learning lessons and you know what? Should I even say something back? Should I even respond? Should I even act this way? But being that a lot of that wasn't presented to me, again, this is for you and for all of us out there, especially myself that grew up in a survival mindset. Something I'm still learning. Or let's say I've broken the cycle of that because I can see it where sometimes unconsciously we don't even know. So imagine a person that grew up in a passive aggressive family, right? They don't realize how much rage that they actually hold because of the fact of how much has been pushed aside. That in itself can make them dangerous or a liability to those around them. Now, say for instance that someone did grow up in an abusive household. They too still carry rage, but it's just they express theirs quicker or more more impulsively. And I'm telling you shit from experience because, bro, there's no better feeling than being authentic. I'm looking down because I'm like collecting, I'm getting seeds out of this watermelon. But yeah, man, there's no like better feeling to be raw and real because there's nobody that I know of that's really talking about this because again, I still battle with the fact of um, the old way of doing shit or really focusing on the bigger picture. I came across a video and this sister was talking about something similar that I am now about retaliation and how even the programming of the brain of how again like I'm telling you from experience, bro. This is from not feeling no shame and guilt from I told y'all about traumatic experiences growing up to where it's like, you know, now implementing therapy, now realizing how much the body keeps a score, how much even like you can't even lie to yourself at the end of the day about self abuse, disrespecting yourself any much more longer, knowing your worth, knowing your value. And with this process comes a process of elimination almost, and eliminating the old versions of you, the old aspects of you that you wanted to hold on to for so long. And I can see how certain parts of that literally remove certain people in my life. And if I pretty much see it like as an energetic thing, like as they were removed, I still had to sit with myself. I still had to learn myself more. That's the process of evolution. That's the process of like growth. Because again, it's not about being perfect. It's just like a child making certain doing certain things and learning to bump his head, to hit his butt, learning to walk. And that's what I've learned about what this journey is, whether it's healing, spiritual, or just self-reflecting. I realized like, bro, I'm not gonna beat myself up over the fact of accepting consequences from the fact of me still trying to learn and navigate life. That's why I want to share with a lot of you young ones. Like, you don't have to beat yourself up for what you did not know. So a lot of that had me like recognizing like, fuck, I didn't even have people around me trying to really show me like, you know, the consequences of this before a lot of them actually ended up in jail or prison or ended up in a place where it may have broken up the family or it may have split up. You know, certain things have happened to where, you know, that's the thing that's not discussed so much so on a platform or just in certain spaces where we need like I'm coming on here to remind people like, bro, like from not seeing something consistently has a profound effect on your mental ability, your neurotransmitters in your brain, how you operate and receive energy, how people talk. I'm telling you, from growing up in an abusive household verbally, I have issues with people who are talking loud, even much like so now. Like, I'm talking about abruptly just, I have a powerful voice, so sometimes I don't even know how powerful my voice is or when I speak. So I even, with myself, had to bring it back to myself and learn more about me. But from the fact of like times where I grew up hearing someone talk and how they talk, I'm telling you, like, it got to a point where I realized through my own growth of reflecting, I was like, oh my God, I'm disgusted on how a woman or anybody can just either whether they talk to their kids a certain way, like, you know, disgustingly, or seeing how people talk to their spouse. And again, it ain't about being perfect because sometimes people are unconscious of what they do until after the fact. Then one of the biggest things that come after that is the accountability part. Again, a lot of us were never brought up on accountability. That means taking responsibility on how you have not only hurt yourself first, but hurt the persons and people around you. Not in the, let me be honest, it's in the world, but not in the demographics of people that are darker. And not everyone, but just the fact of this consists in every shades of people, but just in the fact of Like, I didn't grow up around accountability at all. I didn't grow up around it. It was something that wasn't centered. It was something that wasn't a priority, and still something that's not a priority in the family that I grew up in. Um, it's still not a priority to this day. It's something that has to be eventually like. It's almost like you have to force it in people's face, but you can no longer do that because they still are in a almost like a infant state of not knowing how to process their emotions, not knowing how to receive information. They easily are triggered. You know, a lot of things that have them believing that um, everything they do is right and there's no wrong or there's no accountability to their action. And that's why I can say I'm living proof of karma playing out, and people are karma for each other. And that's the big thing about the lesson in karma. For me, I was telling myself, like, again, there's certain connections, even personally, what I've dealt with from people growing up. I wanted to have retaliation so much. I always mention the fact of like how I got much bigger than my abusers, like all of my abusers. I can say I'm better at being more skilled. I can say I'm better at um, if I decided to like be um, combative in a way, like, or even violent. If I even consider something like that, being that, looking at their age, looking at um, the health, that, you know, a lot of people are such, and it's like the growth comes in to where it's not even worth it. And that's why I realized I had to learn a lot of my value to where I'm even starting to speak about these things so authentically. Even in relationships, a lot of things that what we're shown so young really reflects it reflects our worth. And sometimes we're not even aware of the fact that what we learn from these people, they taught us what our worth is. And the reason why I always speak about spiritual currency, I always speak about authenticity, is because we have grew up around people who again have belief systems on what our worth is and what that entails, or giving us a blueprint on even how we're supposed to receive love, which again reflects our internal worth, how we're supposed to interact, whether partnership, business, what we accept, what we don't have boundaries on. All these things reflect value. All these things reflect our worth. And gradually, through the fact of learning from my own self, it hasn't been perfect. Again, from growing up in the setting of abusiveness and chaotic households, that's played out to the things where, again, I determine my worth from who I was with. What, not only who I was with, but how much I could at times through evolution or through my own internal growth, certain relationships reflected whether things more sexually rather than financially, or going from this relationship to that relationship without really sitting with myself to learn more about what my worth really is. What what and you know that worth is more like your internal worth. What limitations or what belief systems have you created on what your worth reflects? Okay, then that reflects on who you surround yourself with, who you connect yourself with, why certain things don't happen the way you want it to happen, or why certain things didn't happen the way I wanted to happen. I had to realize like when a lot of things got chaotic or shift in my life, where it was preparing me for a shift, but I also realized like, damn, like God, you know how you want it to be this person to be a part of these things. Certain relationships reflected the growth in the fact of it was never supposed to be all of these glitz and glams with this individual, because sometimes those lessons or that you learning your worth took for you to go through that karmic or um, destructive or chaotic experience with that person to be able to see yourself, to be able to realize like, wow, I feel like a lot of things wasn't given to me. This is a lot of self-realization. A lot of things wasn't given to me at that moment because have I really learned the lesson? Because if the Most High is trying to give me something, something specifically that I've seen in my vision or in my dreams, I have to ask myself, was this person even a part of it? And then through that transition of that, again, the integrity it takes to even be honest with self, because integrity is also building honesty with self. It isn't just showing people how truthful or how upkept or upkeep or whatever it is you can be throughout life. No, integrity starts with self belief system. This is from over 35 years consistent molding of myself, shaping and reshaping, not even trying to make it seem like it has to be perfect, but due to certain belief systems, due to certain upbringings, we can make that into something that can keep us from really diving deeper into ourselves or learning more about ourselves. So for me, I realized like, whoa, like I realized again that going back to the retaliation thing has a lot to do with the fact of what is it gonna solve for me, and then um, the real biggest part of growth is would I want someone to do me like that? Because I'm a firm believer in universal law. Like what you put out, you're gonna get back. Y'all, somebody start playing music real loud. But again, so the growth in a lot of things, I'm realizing like the greatest I feel like retaliation that you can ever give or ever offer, not even just to someone, but for you first, is to be able to show up for you even better. To be able to see the growth in how, whether it's distance, whether it's walking away from a partnership, relationship, a country or city, so many things where you start to recognize like, how are you going to see your inner growth? How are you going to be able to recognize, um, your growth overall? And again, this comes with emotional intelligence. This comes with maturity. This comes with a lot of shit that I had to realize, like, oh my gosh, I thought that this was a part of life to even normalize treating not other people a certain way, but treating myself like that. I didn't know what self-abuse was. We talk about abuse, but we don't talk about, there isn't an emphasis on self-abuse. How we abuse ourselves, how we neglect ourselves, how we abandon ourselves for business, careers, partnerships. And like I said, I feel like the greatest retaliation is to um, not to even retaliate at all, but revert that and transmute that into something to better yourself, to focus on a bigger picture or a goal. And that's one thing I could realize I got more consistent at, that I realized that I didn't even realize how much I've been doing it over time. Because again, had I not went through certain relationships, had I not intervened and did certain things, I would have never been here talking to you all. Or I would have never been sharing this message, because again, certain relationships had to show me worth, even when I didn't know what worth was. Again, this is why I had to give myself grace, because I had no idea what worth was until later in my 30s. And that's how it's so funny how the divine will give you things when you can be in a marriage, you can be in a friendship, relationship for 30, 40 years and all this other stuff. And you'll come to the self-realization like, oh my God, I had to go through this with this person. I had to go through that just to realize like, does this person really care about their well-being more than me? If they don't, then how are they not a liability? But then the growth in that is when you're at that stage or that mindset where, do I get revenge on them? How do I get revenge? And I start to recognize how much of that was a lower frequency or a lower state, or even just trying to be in that mindset of survival, simply because I grew up seeing people do that a lot. I seen people being the antagonists. And sometimes we don't even recognize that we carry this shit I recognize I carried a lot of things that at the end of the day, no matter how much I wanted to point the finger at somebody else, I had to learn to take full accountability of where I came and how I've gotten to how far I've got in my life. And this is where again I had to give myself grace. Um, and I didn't know about grace for a while because I never knew people who had grace. I never knew people who showed other people grace. Like again, I saw people who show people, their ass. I saw people growing up who just showed their ass, who just so a part of them that what they knew was familiar. Then the growth comes in also when you're not trying to seek revenge. When it comes when you're learning to walk away, but step more into yourself. Learning to There was something else I was gonna say, like that growth of, oh yeah, learning to change the generational pattern or break the generational curse. You know, change a habit. Um, and that comes with a lot of growth. That comes with a lot of letting go of the old narrative, letting go of what is familiar. That's what I was getting to. That's the thing that was can be so challenging through transition is, or not even wanting to be revengeful or operating that is also being is realizing that in that you're breaking a cycle. Again, I saw a lot of people fighting when I grew up to where now it'd take not even a lot for me to be in that position. It would just I have to see the bigger picture on like what the fuck is that going to solve, especially when you have kids in the picture. A lot of those things you start to realize like, wow, am I reenacting what my mom and dad did? That's one of the greatest fucking things I had to realize, like even with trauma and how deep it can go. You're talking about a system or a place where it's been so passive aggressive in society to where it doesn't teach us to really focus on bettering ourselves internally or focusing on our well-being. And I'm sitting here like, whoa, I'm really changing and shifting not only my mindset to see a better outcome than at a time where I only saw as a childhood outcomes of violence, to where now I had to recognize like it was a pattern to where there were times where I only knew that the best outcome was literally the worst. Now tell me how mentally ill that is. It's like I only felt like the best outcome was to show my ass, do something wild, do something that you know what I'm saying. That when I reflect on it now, I was like, oh my gosh, am I or reenacting a similar behavior of what my mom did or what my cousins or elder cousins did just because of they were, you know, didn't know how to manage their emotions or were impulsive. And I can honestly say, yes, I did. And I was like, what? What kind of shit is this? Because it's like, how am I any better than anyone who's trying to talk about bettering myself or the youth when I'm not even influencing people to be much better? Or why it ain't even just influencing. It's like I have to be my greatest influencer first before I can even just be like, oh, I gotta like, cause that's what integrity is. I can't sit here and say, oh gosh, I gotta go out here and tell the youth this and this. And in reality, it's like everything done in the dark comes to the light. So with that, I'm not gonna ever come on here or anywhere and paint the perfect picture as if I haven't not even just fucked up. It's more so of acknowledging how unconsciously, if you're not aware of what you're doing and how you're doing it, it still has an effect on people, whether you like it or not. That's the thing that's like, again, I grew up in the survival so much with people till I realized I was connecting with people and also connected with people who did not have that survival mindset, but also realizing that I was familiar with the survival mindset. So now that I'm changing the cycle, breaking generational curses, and realizing like changing so much, I'm realizing like, oh my gosh, I am doing what's unfamiliar to what the family cycle was. Or let's say if you're in a certain relationships, let me do what's not familiar to what this person or that person would normally look for, whether that be a certain reaction or a certain response. I have to be, that's why it starts with you, coming back home to you and realize like, how aware are we when we talking about our patterns? How aware are we when we realizing like, um, you know, again, it takes a lot of strength to realize like, why shouldn't I retaliate? Because again, when you're not around or have been surrounded around people with the mentality of making a better decision, making a more conscious decision, making a better decision on loving yourself, having more of a lasting impact on the generations after. You know, even through the uncomfortability of them not accepting you or people not accepting you right away simply because of what? Because it's unfamiliar to them. You know, in a culture where again, where a lot of these youth are taught to retaliate, go out there, do this and do that to your partner, or do this and do that to your friends, or go out here in the community, do this and do that, and it's just like, but it's never encouraged truthfully on the side to where it's coming from a man who can actually talk about where on a deeper, more level, not just physically of what he's done, but speaking from a place of, you know, spiritual warfare, things ancestrally, speaking from a place of emotions, or him still learning to navigate instead of people portraying like, oh, yeah, I'm in this place successfully, I have this, because this is what we're given to us young. Like, we always have these people come along who's a certain status in sports, or who's this and who's that. Hold on. I gotta get that out. Who's over a certain class, or they bring a, you know, these same typical characters. And it's nothing against them. It's not to devalue them, but it's the similar pattern of bringing certain people in to try to speak positively, but not really going into more a deeper awareness of like how they still currently are fighting their vices or trying to navigate their vices, or even watermelon, or even still, when I'm talking about the healing journey, that is a lifelong journey. That is a journey of still evolving. Like I'm telling you, currently, I'm still learning how to manage my emotions, my impulses, not to take it out on someone, not feel like even when a repressed memory or repressed emotion come up that I gotta, you know, I still feel rage around that shit. I still feel anger around the fact of why shouldn't I get back at that certain person or this person? Or even in a business setting, you know, when I know a person didn't do what I felt, you know, why I felt that it really bothered me or rubbed me the wrong way. Why shouldn't have I like, you know, again, we learned to be passive aggressive in so many spaces to where even when we were silenced young, and this is why a reason why I come on here, because it's just I find this to be a healthy outlet. It's not to convince, for people to accept and so forth, and even receive. For this, it can be very delayed for a lot of people who aren't here. But for me, it's a place where if I'm not able to talk to a certain person right now, or if I'm not able to do this, I'm gonna come here just for the time being. And if I feel led to upload, if I don't, it is what it is. Because there's certain things I'll just speak, delete it, write about it, you know, find other outlets to again bridge myself from being a millennium or just being from learning from the elders and then to the youth. Because again, like bro, I write right now, there is a lot up in the air to where Again, being that we have grew up in a passive aggressive society, in certain demographics, again, where you're taught to be silent, you're taught to take it to this religious figures, pray about it. So many things from my perspective has taught us to be so passive aggressive. That's why it's so much, no longer will there be a stigma around men speaking up for their mental health or speaking up for the fact of what bothers them. So fucking what if people perceive what they want from this? I cannot care more about someone else's opinion about me rather than the one that I have to sit with when I lay down at night. I cannot allow that to make me lose rest or anything. Because, again, this is about coming back home to self and independently thinking. A lot of belief systems we have developed has been from the fact of what we have been influenced by. Again, a culture that tells you, or people that tell you, don't snitch, which is telling you not to be honest about a fucking situation, is ridiculous. Don't talk about the predator that, mama and daddy protected or somebody protected. Don't talk about the certain things that, that can put you away for a whole bunch of years. You be away from your mom and your family. Don't talk about that. Like, it's so wild how much we don't even realize how so much has been twisted. So much has influenced us to even keep each other from really healing a fucking internal wound and external wound. So there's a narrative on keeping the dysfunction, keeping the arguments, keeping all the stuff that keep us from being in harmony and peace and balance. So again, it's it's a lot of internal growth or amazing for me to where knowing, oh my gosh, knowing how you've been not even just so much of wronged, it's so much of like, what has this given me? And that's a great concept I had to remember, even with when I think about revenge or retaliation. I have to ask myself, what has this given me an opportunity to do? And for one, to better myself, to better my approach, to be more, next time it does reveal itself, whether that's an energy spiritually or this person reveals certain things, it's, I can see that I don't have to react or retaliate after such certain things, and learning again not to take it personal. The, what is that, the four agreements. And being that we have lived in an oversensitized society, that is not something that's prominent, is to teach people not to take things personal, and whatever people are going through, they first have to deal with. But we're so used to taking it to other people. This is why I'm grateful for this platform or sharing this, because at a point in time I was so used to taking it to other people. I was so used to sharing this and that. But now that I do it with no attachment, not worried about what the outcome is and so forth, it's more so the awareness around how it can have an impact on, even on those who it may trigger, or those in the long run who it may have an impact on, to where they can make a more sound decision or have a deeper awareness on why it is that they made that decision, or why they shouldn't go there and try to retaliate or do this, because I see it growing up a lot. And again, it all depends on your what you also prioritize in life. And that's a whole nother thing. Some people prioritize chaos over peace and harmony. And I had to recognize, what am I prioritizing? What I want to go towards? What am I leaning towards? And then that's when it hit me. That's why certain relationships can crumble or fall apart, and that's throughout life. This is, as your belief system change, um, and as you shift within, and your mindsets and your behavior change, then you got to ask yourself, what type of people am I around that reflects this behavior? Or am I around people who reflects the same belief system? Because that reflects, again, their internal belief system also will reflect their actions. And it ain't about being perfect, because sometimes it can be very shocking to when you realize, like, dang, man, I thought I used to like people, but it ain't even just liking them. It's just more so I love myself enough to remove myself, or I love myself enough to move away with a deeper awareness on what brings me peace, what brings me balance, what brings me comfort. That's one of the greatest things I realize, how some people can't surpass or are afraid to come out of their comfort zone because of what's familiar to them, because of what again, that safety net or that security net, or that comfort zone is a lot of people's safety, especially like diving deeper to a root cause. Imagine not having that safety and happiness very young, where you can't just run away. Because I used to run away young. That's how much I wanted to get away from the dysfunction. That's how much I wanted to get away from anything disharmony. And as I grew, even now, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. I have to ask myself, like, bro, a staycation on an island or somewhere couldn't come fast enough, but I'm ready. That's why I feel like one of the greatest retaliations is to love yourself, to loving yourself. Don't do what they did, and that's a growing process. Don't do what they did. Just go return to yourself. Learn more about you. Learn more about why you allow this, or why won't you allow it anymore. And it's a lot, man. Like that involves relationships. That involves, again, the most important relationships with yourself. So yeah, I feel like that could be it. Like I said, that's one of my biggest things is retaliation. And then I think another one's like even boasting about it. It's like celebrate your wins in silence. Celebrate your accomplishments. And if you feel led to show things or whatever it is, it'll always eventually come to the light. That's another thing too. Growing up in environments where people wanted to boast and share so much about what they've done, what they've experienced, and it's wild how we will boast about in the culture, not even just flashy stuff, but like how dysfunctional people really were. Like you see that with a lot of TV shows. It's literally highlighting how to get back, how to get over people, how to manipulate, how to scam. Do y'all not realize, like, bro, I be sitting back like, bro, is this the world? Like, this shit is fucked up. I'm talking about everything systematically. I still believe interest rates are the biggest scam. Taxes. So many things. It's like anything to keep people in literally from rising out of their situation or rising above what their circumstances not even just look like, but more internally. It's like if it truly ain't centered around wellness or trying to bring some type of solution, I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's literally challenging trying to make sense of like not even the world right now, but so much of like you sit back and observe and like, oh my God, I was literally growing up in a world where when you look at the concept of war, when you look at how they would talk about, well, this person did this, now we're going to war with them. Retaliation. That word, how are they going to retaliate? How are we going to respond? We're going to do this, and then they do it worse. And it's like, whoa, this is not a world that prioritizes harmony and peace. That's why it's so important that we find it within ourselves. Because when we dive deeper, you'll realize how many people, even with their belief systems, I'm recognizing more and more. I'm like, wow, I can really see what a person hasn't faced without judgment. I had to learn to have grace over the last year because I didn't know what it was, because I didn't know how to give it to myself. But now that I realize I have more grace and compassion, I'm like, wow, there are some people who don't know. There are some people who belief systems are simply just to be passive aggressive and to pretend they don't see what's going on, not only in their house, in their homes, but also around the world. There are some people who belief system is to simply be revengeful, to be hateful, there's so many different vices, so many things people are dealing with, and it's like, whoa, all these fucking distractions. And I had to realize, like, man, I had to get to this point just to realize, like, I have to focus on myself. At some point, it's gonna seem very, very, very selfish when you step into your independence, and that's one thing I had to gradually learn is that I have, like, to really get to a place where you learn not to take on other people's energy by retaliating, by being revengeful. Man, that's one of the greatest things you can ever master. I'm still learning to master it. It's like, I don't have to receive this. I don't have to take on this. I don't have to even respond at this moment. I'm not saying in the silence, using silence as an abusive tactic or abandonment in some other way. I mean, just like, you just be like, whoa, it'll hit you out of nowhere. The revelations. Shout out to Virgo season. It's just like, whoa. And then you recognize again, even more deeper, as the world goes through this huge transition and everybody's panicking or even don't show it, eventually, like, it comes out with everybody. Even children do it all the time. And that's why I realize I sit back and I watch children, I learn from them, and I recognize, like, a lot of us adults are present day. This is learned behavior from somebody else. Everything that people are doing is learned behavior. And when I look at kids who haven't been, let's say, abused or neglected, and even if they have, even through their innocence before they get to a certain age, I just be like, wow. I sit and observe, and I just be like, whoa, they the most purest thing here. And I wonder, like, how we don't even, they don't seek to retaliate. They don't seek to destroy nothing around them. They may be playful and do things because they're still learning, you know, human interaction, or, learn things. But it's never to the extreme of what you see people or humans do right now. How they come into their so-called false empowerment, how they come into their status and so forth, and literally see how they abuse it or misuse or mishandle people or themselves. Because I always look at the polarity. It's like one thing I learned is, like, even through my experience of being mishandled young, I didn't know how to handle, and I don't mean like control, but I didn't know. I recognize this, like, even through the fact of I didn't have control of my life very young, and when I was abused, it did lead me into a pattern where I wanted to subconsciously control things, or consciously wanted to control the outcomes. I didn't even realize unconsciously I wanted to control the people. I didn't even around me. I didn't even unconsciously recognize that I wanted to control so much of going with the flow of life or allowing things to balance, instead of recognizing what that was. That's the aspect of the wounded masculinity portrayed in both men and women right now, because of the false empowerment or perception of what the patriarchal pushes, which is this power, force, control, manipulation, that again, whether the matriarchal who were influenced enable this very patriarchal system that is crumbling right before us, only for now, for a new matriarchal, a new order of things, to have more compassion, to protect the children and the mothers, so that the men, and, or whatever being can be, um, grow in this world. Grow in a world or an environment and communities where there can be harmony, peace, and so forth. So we have to recognize the not so pretty aspect of what we all have enabled, what we all have influenced, what we all collectively, whether individually as well, at a point in time, was the fuck a part of. Like, let's be honest. And the ones who really don't have, they're a part of it, but really don't have their hand in it, is our kids. The ones that are small, who 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 really don't have a sense, like a consciousness, awareness of what it is they're doing, until they're influenced to do otherwise. So yeah, I recognize I be seeing adults, and I mean, even through my own shit, you will see people Again, we have such a forceful nature, and the judgment that's going to happen here is that we're going to see so much shift and change, not only internally but externally in the world, just for us to show us that no one is in control, no one's bigger than the program, and because of what has happened, this is what we're going to see play out. And it's already playing out, because that's why you see the monetary system, that's why you see the leadership, that's why you see so much playing out, to where if you sit back and observe kids, they'll show you how it's always supposed to have been and will be eventually. They'll show you. I mean, I'm currently watching two little girls run back and forth and hug each other. I mean, they did it repeatedly for 5 times. Because it's in us all because at first we knew love and known love and compassion and purity. It's not our fault for some of us that grew up in environments where we took on belief systems unconsciously and subconsciously been programmed to believe that this is how we're supposed to be now, and how that same solution or same things that were in previous generations are supposed to work for us now, it isn't. I do feel like we are the generation, certain millenniums and people after us are and will be a more compassionate and empathetic people. So right now you are going to see an outpour of the energy that will usher in more compassion. So what's the opposite of that? Hatred. You're going to see the influx of how energy, the way it comes in, it has to go out. So I keep telling people, the way you see, it's no difference in relationships. The way that energy came in is how it's going to go out. The same thing with the collective. The way energies came in when you built upon a certain nation is the same way it's going to go out. It's just going, the vessel or the people may look different, but that energy is still going to be revealed on all levels, in all corporations, in all business. Evolving is one thing. Changing is another. The seasons change, but people, we have to realize, like, evolution is a different thing, you know, um, and that's more, I feel, from my perspective, more of an internal thing. But to evolve, that's a whole nother thing. Like, that's something that spiritually, mentally, emotionally. We can see people change clothes, like I always say. You can change cars, you can change clothes, you can do all that. That's been happening for a lot of years. A lot of our elders, a lot of people been changing clothes, but they have not evolved or did any type of inner work, meaning that the inner work consists of shadow work. They haven't faced anything inside of them, whether their emotions and so forth. So yeah, and that's why you're going to see a lot of people behaviors from a lower nature, if you want to say a lower frequency, you're going to see a lot of things where you have to really be discerning, be careful, be mindful, and realize sometimes it ain't even them, for those who know spiritually, or most of the time it is them. But it's where the grace comes in, where you just got to ask for more grace for yourself, and then divine support and divine guidance to be ushered into a higher timeline, or to a different life that consists more of what you deserve and desire. And that's one of the things I realized. Again, not trying to retaliate or anything. It's more so let me pour more into myself. Let me learn more about me. Let me sit with me more, and then I'll be able to move forward. I'll be able to get the clarity. I'll be able to get the awareness. I'll be able to get the clues, the good omens, and I'll be able to get the things where I feel like it was supposed to come from this person, and in reality, no, they were literally showing me the way out. They were literally showing me the door. You ever been in some shit, you be like sitting here trying to hold on in life through something, and as you learn to master the art of detachment, you'll realize, like, those are guides on your way. Like, people are literally, depending on where they are, guiding you to the next mission, to the next timeline, to the next experience, to the next new life or adventure. And the more we start to recognize, like, and in a childlike manner, you will see it no different as they grow from certain different ages, where they're not even the same emotionally, mentally, consciously. None of it. But we've got so consumed by adulthood, and we've been so far from what has kept us on that innocent spectrum. We got so far away from childhood that we no longer recognize joy or fun, or recognize, like, we take shit so more serious rather than just being more in a delusional way of, like, I'm just gonna surrender, I'm just gonna let life happen, I'm gonna have faith even though I don't know what the outcome may look like. We're coming from generations that are so focused on knowing what that outlook looks like, because look at the monetary system of how jobs and certain things are set up. It's literally created to focus on the outcome so people know what they're going to get. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense to a lot of people, they knew what they were going to get. At the same moment, it's just like we look at our relationships, we look at a lot of stuff the same. That's why we try to be so strategic and so, everything got to be so perfect. And that's what people don't realize. Even the nodes right now, Pisces, Virgo, that's going to shatter the illusions of people who try to make things be so perfect. It's even with, I give you a little example. I'm eating this big ass watermelon, and I got this cream or white shirt on. It's no way that I'm not gonna spill something on here. But how many people can look at that as a place of or like innocence? Like, oh my God, I got something on my shirt. Some people are like, man, goddamn, I gotta go change. Man, get angry at the littlest things. And I start to recognize that, bro. I was like, bro, I used to get so angry at the littlest things. I had to recognize, like, I was a part of a system, or systematically the programming of how much we were corrupted by such a patriarchal that wanted to control and manipulate the feminine attributes of who we are. That's the rise of the mother energy in us that no longer will lay dormant or no longer be controlled or manipulated. That's what that experience or that expression that is being made more present through speaking, through arts, through music and so forth. Because again, I've told y'all before about the industry and all that other stuff. All these things, whether you look at it, I don't care what type of person is on any type of structure or whatever it is that they're doing platform. In some way, somehow, the powers that ain't or used to be has some type of control in that. How certain medias or how certain things, and you're seeing it so much clearer now with certain platforms where divine justice is going to come, is already happening on views with people who are getting views on social media or the media in general, or even how things are expressed, is because we recognize, as those who are very much in tune of how our messages are supposed and will reach hundreds of millions and billions of people, because it's divinely orchestrated. It's supposed to be that way to usher in something more grander and bigger. At the same time, before that can happen, for a lot of us, the slow and steady process has to be something like you see a flower grow. I had to be even more, again, had to reflect more on the control and, all these other things, and, why I want this to happen so quickly, when the divine was like, no, I want you to learn more about you. Because as you get to learn more about you, you won't care about so much about what anybody has to say. You will do it for you, knowing that the interconnectedness will connect us all to the fact of what you have to say, and they're going to listen. It's going to be different. Some of us have to realize, like, shit has to go through what it's going through right now, crumble, be dismantling, for certain of us to be positioned perfectly for certain things, to literally everything to be turned right to you, right to where you are. And that's through even certain characters before who wanted to manipulate and perceive that they were all there is to this matrix, or to this idea of what the world is. And that goes for preachers, that goes for spiritualists, that goes for all people. That's why I always bring up the fact that when y'all talk about artists, there are artists everywhere. Everyone should get their It ain't even just attention, but everyone deserves the same value of, empowerment. If you want to say attention, yes, we can say attention, but support. And that's the feminine, that's the divine mother, the feminine that's rising, where mama, the divine mother in all of us, or the divine mother energy, makes sure that all her children want for nothing, that all her children are taken care of. And that's the energy of, some may call it a dark feminine, or the, that untamable energy, that feminine, like that of the water. I just told someone today, she was like, she was telling me how she was a Virgo, and I was like, well, I come in, my zodiac sign, Western, if you want to call it Western astrology, is a Scorpio. She was like, oh yeah, Scorpio seems to um, approach or always have something to say. I didn't take offense to it. I said, well, water always finds its way. Water always seems to touch everything. If I'm gonna leave y'all with anything, that's what a divine feminine energy is and has always been. As much as people wanted to push away the feminine energy that is a representation of who we are inwardly, like the expression, as much as people wanted to push, let's say, the expression of anything on any level, whether it's people, places, demographics, arts, music, and so forth, it's almost like the pressure of what they created to block the waters, the dams. Y'all got to realize, like, all this shit has been accumulating, and behind whatever that dam is built up. All that is going to, like, literally, it's like a wave, a tsunami that's building up right now, and it's going to come in like a flood. That's what the feminine energy is. It cannot be tamed. So a lot of us have to recognize, like, yo, you were sent here to remind your lineage that you are not here to be fucking tamed. You will not be tamed. You will not be. And I'm getting clarity of, even when you look at zoos, when you look at corporations, when you look at businesses that want to hoard monetary things, when you look at on a global scale, on a higher level, where you have people, leadership, and all that want to keep resources from certain parts of the country, and all these other things. Let me tell y'all something. The way the feminine energy, or the mother, is going to make sure that everything, like I said, water. This is why I wanted to say on my other video, because it ties into this. This goes out to spiritualists who are connected to the deities of Oshun, Yemoya, Yemoja, Oya, all that. Listen, it's judgment coming to y'all, especially. Y'all were assigned in these moments, and this is where a lot of the conflict you're going to see plays very close attention to the spiritual women right now, who are really, you'll be able to read their energy, not even read them, but be very discerning against the women who are literally who represent these certain deities, who represents this energy, and claim that they, like, proclaim that they have it to support the bigger picture for all, whether it be children and mothers. Not only just be discerning of what they're saying, be discerning and ask for divine support, of the highest good of all, for it to be revealed who they really are. Because a lot of them don't have spiritual ranking as they do. A lot of them aren't interceding or getting messages from those same deities or those same higher ups. They aren't getting that. They're doing it to manipulate and to persuade y'all into their services, again, to connect and cipher energy, to connect and get closer to you. So be very mindful, because their mission, and in the bigger picture, from, again, I see the divide amongst these people who proclaim to be that. Even the men too. A lot of these priests or high priests who proclaim to be of Shango and Ogun or Egun, and other Orishas who have their connection, they too will have justice brought upon them, because they too are ushering a new order of things. That is always, when you talk about connection and unity, when you talk about Obatala and all these things that connect everything, Those especially who know the depths of what Oshun represents, and not seeing it from the beauty aspect, but also seeing what she went through, seeing a lot of what those mother archetypes went through. There's no difference for a lot of us who are realizing and being able to represent and discern who certain characters are on this world stage, what they represent, their misperception or misconception of that they didn't think that the judgment was going to come to them. They all will be. And again, be very discerning too, because a lot of people of a certain religious faith also um will have how could I say this? A conflict of interest, or don't be concerned if they reject you. Because again, that's only their own internal blockages. This is their own reality. That's what they have been in for years and so forth. That's what their ancestral beliefs, well, they don't even know a lot of that is not even their ancestral beliefs, but that's their way of how they want to transition this life or how they want to experience, to each their own. But that's something that I had to mention before in my other video where I did not express, is that a lot of people, I call out things in the spiritual community especially, because those who know that things happen spiritual before they happen physical. So a lot of people that we be held accountable isn't just people who, well, hold on, this is what I need to get to and say. A lot of people in the spiritual community or who have been very manipulative and persuasive, that were a part of the powers that ain't or used to be, had a lot to do with what you see play out on this global scale, on this earthly plane and so forth. They too have karma accounted for them, for all the tears that have been shed, for all the violence, for all the manipulation, everything. I tell people, even if you think it won't hit you, your children. That's the thing about universal law. What goes around comes around, or as above, so below, as within, so without. So above, so below. You catch my drift. And it's happening more rapidly. And I will always encourage people, never celebrate someone's demise or their fall from grace. Because truthfully, it's, you wish them well. I know some people may disagree, but like, their ancestors or spirit guides told their ass up. That's just as anybody else. We all been karma to somebody, or somebody be karma to us, and so forth. But one thing I will encourage people to do, you never sit back and clap and so forth. Now, I don't know the depths of what, I just say there's always consequences of things, but I per se wouldn't celebrate and so forth, because I just learned to have more grace through a lot of things where, you know what, I ain't even mad at you. But you had to learn that consequence of once you come over here, and a lot of us are going to start to be more discerning with this, or really coming to a lot of self-awareness, is that once people start coming in thinking they can play around with you, and this goes for spiritualists, this goes for people in physical settings too, whatever their so-called rank is, again, they too, whether they know it or not, it can bring them into more of a space of spiritual consequences, which leads to physical consequences. So that means spiritual justice and physical justice. So don't ever think that the fact of going back to retaliation, some of us are here this lifetime to just simply move the fuck on and do something that our ancestors weren't able to do. Start where your ancestors, or start where your mother, your grandfather, your great grandfather, we go on and on. Start where they couldn't, because a lot of us are in a place of unfinished business, and karma is unfinished business, to where you have no idea what past life regression or past life karma that you're living out right now. A lot of you. I had to remind myself that, like, like, when you think about your mom and father, don't ever think that they haven't accumulated karma. Some people could have try to step over people on the way to the top. Some of y'all don't even realize, some of y'all are coming from relationships where your mom and father could have stepped out or did something. You don't know what type of spiritual rank that person had, what that they did it to. You don't even know what they could have wished on that person. You don't know what they could have done to try to block. Not only that, but block that person or block whatever it is. But sometimes a lot of us are here to correct that shit. And that's one of the most things that I recently came in contact with a sister where she was doing this, basically this reading on this so-called person. And I don't mean just reading them, it's just like she was breaking down their chart or whatever. And some people here, I keep telling y'all, certain characters have ranking. Whether artists or anybody, they have ranking. They have spiritual rank. In a lot of their lifetime or this lifetime, a lot of them are supposed to do things completely different. A lot of people in your life too represented, could have been an enemy, could have been something in another lifetime, or those who are in this awareness, or they had an opportunity to do things right by you or righteous or correct that karma, do things in a different way so that your path can be more illuminated, so things can be clear. It's like a video game if you want to use that. It's like as you level up and become more aware, comes with leveling up comes more fucking discernment. Yeah, you can enjoy your life. You don't have to be scared or fearful. No, that shit comes with you tapping more into your innocence and realizing like I'm supposed to enjoy life. I'm not supposed to be possessed or I'm supposed to experience it. I'm not supposed to get caught up in like, oh my gosh, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta. No, it's a process and let it unfold like that of a lotus. So again, that's certain things I went through with people. It it will it will be in my heart to do certain things. There's certain things where I thought I got away from. No, it would be in my heart to apologize to myself than to them, or it be in my heart to where certain things that I didn't realize then, and I'm like, you know what? When a moment presents itself, I am going to, let's say, pay my dues or repay or pay out that person, whether it's physically or spiritually. There's a lot of correction that y'all don't realize that are on so many fucking levels right now, energetically, karmically. A lot of y'all get so caught up in the fact that you are oversensitive generation, especially millenniums. Y'all, our generation is so sensitive because we were all those sensitive children. Star seeds are powerful children that can only face these things that our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers and grandfathers didn't have the opportunity. It's not to say they weren't powerful. They just didn't have the opportunity. In this moment, I keep reminding y'all in this transition and all this stuff that's happening, where you have an opportunity to sit your ass down, where you have an opportunity to really reflect and see what's going on. Pay attention to your dream state, get you a journal, pay attention to who and what, and be very discerning. Pay attention to the fact of your intuition is heightened. Pay attention to your discernment in certain settings. If you're being called to be more by yourself, and someone may not like it, they may not encourage you, but guess what? That's your higher calling. That's your higher purpose. That's your inner child may need more nurturing. Let them be mad, because it takes for some people to step away for us to be a step on a ladder, for us to be in a better position. Some of us are here to do that. Some of us are initiators. Some relationships are initiation for you to be better, for you to make better decisions. No matter how karmically, no matter how ugly it got, it was just for only you to see the beauty inside. That's why that relationship or connection was so ugly. It's for you to see the not so good in you, so you can realize how beautiful you are inside and out. So yeah, I'd be getting into a whole nother thing, but that's just what it is. Y'all be surprised how much correction and what's being restored. I ain't finna panic for shit, cause I have a deeper awareness. It's funny because I went to a what do they call that? A job fair. Oh my gosh, I went to a job fair and all I saw was baby boomers. Like, not just majority of them. And I can read the room and read the energy. It's like I was just there observing. I could see so many people. Most of the people were millenniums. And then I still saw baby boomers, like people 50, 60, something years old, still slowly coming in there looking for a position. And I saw people in there typically around my age again, because our generation is shifting. So we're trying to recognize, like, yo, what kind of job and what job can we really get it has to be $50 to $100 an hour to to afford even housing or to even purchase a home. It's so much that people don't even realize. And I'm just seeing people in there. It was like, like it could give someone social anxiety who really not knowing how to be with themselves. It was just like in this big setting. Everybody just again seeing the old way and seeing the new way. I'm sitting here like I'm supposed to be here. Yeah, I may grab some stuff, but I was just like seeing the paperwork stuff, seeing how paperwork at a time you used to have to take this, go in person. Now they got now they got QR codes. Now they got things where I went to a dealership. You don't even really got to talk to people no more. You can go on there, walk out there. You can even go online before you even go in person. You can literally go out there and scan a QR code to see the price. They don't even show you the price no more. Man, what the fuck? At the job fair thing, it's just like you see. I'm looking at one elder. He was like in some type of trade, like steel, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, he looks so tired and beat. And I'm like, well, I know I ain't going into that to consider anything like that because fuck, my boy, you look tired, my boy. And I'm seeing even the fact of, you know, it may not matter to some people. And it, you know, this is just from the transition of seeing people in certain positions where you see a lot of people who are giving out certain opportunities who don't look like you. And I'm like, wow, is this a shift in power to a people of darker skin? But it's not even so much of that because you do have people I've mentioned before of wealthy families that's around the world that are darker and so forth. But at the same moment, I'm looking at the climate, the atmosphere of even the people who are handing out these opportunities, but don't even feel like there's no energy there. There's no authenticity. There's no integrity really behind it. It's more so like, how can you save my business? That's the majority of it. I'm not saying all, but how can we have more workers? You know, with the effects of AI, with the effects of things becoming more digital. How can, you know, and I'm like recognizing all of the stuff in there. And I'm seeing people come in there, tattoos on their face, seeing people come in there at their best appearance, like seeing people in there with chains on. It's so animated. It's like, what the fuck? I'm seeing people in there with their best dress. I'm seeing people coming there with their degrees. I'm like, bro. The energy in itself was nothing structured. It was no flow. Because everybody, it was like hundreds of people. And I was just like, whoa. And me, I'm just in there like, well, let me get this. What could I really feel like I want to do? What do I feel like I have to do? What do I, you know, it's so much to where I'm like, whoa. You can see the shift and some people don't even see it. They just more focus on like the outcome if I get this position. Again, this is my perspective. If I get this position, they're focused on how could I pay this bill? How could I get this? How could I get that? Other than some people, like again, I'm going into a job fair, but I got this entrepreneurial mindset. I got this from experience mindset, or I got this shift in a mindset and a belief system to where like, what can lead me to more independence, or what can lead me to this being more secure, more stable. You know, what can do that? And sometimes there's so much of a conflict, or there's so much of a push-pull, because it's like sometimes I don't know what to do. I don't know. A lot of us are there. Because it's like when you ask someone to go get a position, and then idealistically they have to work so much so that they don't get evicted, so they don't get behind. What are they supposed to do? You got some people in the shelter experience, it's like they want to rest more than they want to go work, but they got kids. What do they do? It's so many things where y'all don't realize how this shit was designed to crumble. Because your perspective may be different. You got people who have built the business. It could be very successful, right? Now that AI comes in, now all of a sudden, that changes their whole perspective on what they were creating. They used to be on foot. Now they have to change and transition to creating things more digitally. This shift is affecting all of us. All of us. And then most importantly, like the well-being around it. So when I'm looking at positions, I'm like, don't even tell me to be there full time. What is full time? You want all of my time? All full of it? Mm-mm. To what? to burn myself out again, to run out there and passive aggressively come into this place, to be talked to a certain way, to be treated a certain way, to not be valued, to not be seen as less of a human. You know, it's so many different things, perspective. I'm not saying this is true, but I know some of y'all can relate. To be financially abused by a system. Come on now. Just because of the color of my skin, or be denied of certain things just because the color of my skin, or just because I'm a man, be denied certain resources in certain places because my art or whatever it is may look different and it may look unfamiliar, and some people don't want to jeopardize their position and tell them about this person. Or man, it's so much shit I can go on and on. Like y'all don't know the depths of this entrepreneurship. Again, I can't expect a society to give men compassion when our women don't have it. I can't expect a society or a country to give compassion to people that are darker when they've hated their generations previously, have hated them for whatever reason. I can expect compassion from these people. I cannot expect compassion from women who don't know how to have compassion or grace for themselves. I can't expect that. So I'm gonna leave it with that. I can't expect compassion from a country who don't care to pour into their what they call citizens, or I can't expect compassion from people who haven't done the inner work. I can't expect compassion from people who manipulate through their services and so forth. Why would I expect compassion when we haven't had a society that prioritizes it? So that's one of the most toughest things to navigate through right now. Peace and blessings. Shalom.